it's funny, I went to some of the best schools up to high school, and you know, I want to acknowledge the privilege of going to a nice school, but they did a real good job of institutionalizing me. You know what I'm saying? So when I got to college, you know, my major was Black Studies, and I had a lot of people from the community that really took me in and helped pull that stuff from my mind and replace it with proper knowledge. You know, so I really appreciate that. So this poem I kind of wrote out of that education, because I think this part in the movie, some of it's, you know, the Malcolm X movies, is not what's in the book, but it still gets to the point, you know, where he's in jail, and they look up the word black in the dictionary. He's like, oh my gosh, every word's negative. Now, of course, you know, like that part. That's some real truth to that. So this poem's called Dark Like the Contradiction of the Word Itself. It's exploring this concept of where we use language to keep people institutionalized.
Go in.
There's a storm in my brain, and it's swirling around like tsunami rains as dark as secret passageways. Dark like sun rays blocked by campaigns to instill in our brains a false concept of race. Dark like the skin of Jesus and Nefertiti. Dark like the beauty of African queens. Dark like not seeing that every woman is a queen. Dark like all those little white lies that my teachers told me. Dark like the contradiction of the very word itself. Dark like when white and male are sent in succession, it has no negative transgressions. But the inverse does not hold true, for we would all leave someone black and blue if they ever blackmailed you. Dark like comparing people's skin to food. Dark like historically when the European elite isolated their societies from people with dark skin, they plunged their countries into centuries of ignorance we now know as the Dark Ages. Like I said, dark like the contradiction of the word itself. Dark like my mood when youth tell me that Dr. King freed the slaves in the 1960s. Dark like my thought process. Well, are these youth trying to be metaphorically deep, or are we as elders going to teach them their history?
Come on.
Dark like my emotions when I'm tying my muffler to the back of my car with a shoelace and people say, hey, yo, Tom, you sure you ain't black?
Say it again.
Dark like schools of sharks following slave ships. Dark like mothers being hung by their feet. Dark like fathers being tied up and forced to watch on their knees. Dark like the womb cut open for all to see. Dark like the fetus that spills to the ground. Dark like the boot stomping new life into the ground. Dark like the fear instilled into all those who are watching. Dark like 500 years later, that fear's still there. Dark like these torture tactics are still in practice in Sierra Leone, Darfur, and places where they're still enslaving people who are dark like blood diamonds before they're clean. Dark like we know they're blood diamonds, but still we be buying them. Dark like 1 in 6 women are the victim of sexual assault. Dark like those statistics are much worse that only takes into account those who report. Dark like only 50% of minorities are graduating from high school. Dark like when we say minorities, well, that's just a politically correct way of saying people who are dark, like the night the FBI shot Fred Hampton 65 plus times while he slept in a room that was dark. Like that many bullets means they were reloading and then exploding and then reloading and then exploding and then reloading and then exploding. Dark like being taught to stay out of the sun so you don't get dark, like different forms of hate passed on from generation to generation to generation. Dark like the contradiction of the word itself. Dark like without it, you couldn't see the constellations. Dark like without it, the wise men couldn't have watched the skies for signs to find the sun. Dark like India, dark like Australia, dark like Africa, dark everything like Lupe Fiasco's dreams. Dark like beautiful like Q and you, because you'd never find Q without her friend you. So let's have the same be true for dark and beautiful. I don't ever want to see or hear dark without beautiful associations again, because maybe then when I say dark, you'll think beautiful. And 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 maybe then we won't have any more contradictions of the word itself, because you see, to me, I believe dark is beautiful.
Right, Tom.